This is part 3, the last part of the Valentine radar detector mount we made. And the paint had dried overnight. We're ready to do the assembly. And if the weather was appropriate, and it was, get out on the open road and get a little test ride. And we did. And the view of the speedometer is a little bit better because this mount is a little bit lower than a GIVI bag. We tested it on all the motorcycles for a fit and make sure there's no interference with any of the parts, and it was great. That should be a very special day because we're going to be able to, hopefully, as always hopefully, get the radar detector parts. Some of the paint is drying. We have all the screws cut except for a few. Should be able to assemble it, get it out, try it on all the bikes, make sure we don't have any other clearance issues. And who knows how the day is going to play out here at the bed and breakfast. Maybe even get a short test ride. And it looks like as a free bonus that we may even have some decent weather coming soon. Well, but that's the story for another video. You never know this time of year. Stefan emailed me that he got his new Michelin tires and he'll let me know how they're wearing. He's kind of a Michelin fan too. And John and I have been going back and forth with the t-shirt photo. I think we'll be able to finalize it maybe even today. I don't know. But we won't let the cat out of the bag till we actually have some t-shirts. And Luciano's about as excited as he'll ever be, I've ever seen him be anyway, with his new bike. He's also already started to paint it. We may have a little preview of that soon. We don't want to, again, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But we want to get that radar detector finished today. For sure, we had a little delay yesterday because of having to paint and wait for the paint to dry, but it's up by a heating vent drying now. So when we left the project yesterday, we still had to assemble everything. And I left everything out on a bench. I left the battery so I could test it. It's all ready to be assembled. I found some rubber grommets that may be useful. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use those in the box. That's another thing. I carefully sorted out all the screws I'd need to do the assembly. And this should be drying because it's been up by a heating vent for over an hour while I had coffee. That should be dry and ready to buff. So what I want to see is just how much of this is going to be visible. And it's basically from there back. So I'll have a little bit of from there back. I'm going to wet sand just the part you're going to see. The part under the box won't even matter. So some 2000 grit Indasa, some soapy water, and we'll get the whole front of that buffed out with some 8065. Of course, the parts of this that you're going to see up in the front, I wanted to make it as nice as possible. The parts you don't see, well, wasn't really a big deal. The paint was plenty dry after an hour up by a heating vent. That worked out fine. And once I wanted to get this assembled, the idea is I don't want to scratch it up and beat it up and drop it on the floor and everything because the paint is really soft. And so I was really careful with this when I was doing the assembly and putting screws and bolts and things in it. And whenever I'm dealing with wet paint, soft paint, 8065 is good. It's a very gentle polish. You can polish by hand. You could, I guess I could have run a buffing wheel on this, but it doesn't really matter. It's such a small part. And I wanted to get it done because the weather, as I was working down here, Karen kept yelling down at me, "It's going to be a nice day. It's going to be a nice day. You'll get a riding day today. You lucky bum." And it buffed out just fine. So it's going to be real nice once the part's all assembled. So the first step is to attach the box to the part, I guess. And I don't know if I'm going to get this the most efficient way, but I thought getting the box on first. Now I want to attach this. And I'm going to have to find maybe some longer screws because the screws that go in the back maybe a little longer. And when it's all assembled, I'll pull that tape off. I just was worried that assembly now would be hard to get all back in one piece. Now what's nice is this locking ring has, it holds these little, the nuts that go on there. So that's really nice. That's one little nice feature, but maybe I'll look for some black washers. I think I do have some that are black oxide. We'll see how that plays out. Getting the box on and getting the ring on, that's 2 steps in the right direction. Now I've got to do a final trim on some of the bolts. A cut-off wheel is always a good way to do that. And a parting wheel on a Dremel tool, always a really good way to trim off bolts. I usually order bolts, when I order bolts from Bolt Depot, I always get a bunch way longer than I need, because I know one thing, you can always trim them down. But if a bolt's too short, you're married to it. Now with all the screws holding that together, the only thing we have left is the radar mount. I don't need the tape anymore. It served its purpose, and I don't even know if we needed it, but I thought that's one of the things you could, one of those little useful tips you could pass on. I don't know. If I had two of these, I'd take one apart and see what's inside, but in the meantime, let sleeping dogs lie. Interesting how that works, but again, I don't want to take it apart and find out it's like taking a bull of a watch apart. So the screamer mounted up pretty nicely, and now this is going to go, we've got to get our wires all sorted out, get everything put in the box. And we mounted this up yesterday. This is the holes are drilled. We can mount that up, and once that's mounted up, get the guts inside the box, hook up the wire, and we'll see if we need that rubber bushing, and we'll be pretty good to go here. And this is the part where I was glad I had done all the drilling and everything at relatively precision for a part like this, so that putting it together, it would be a piece of cake, and this went pretty quick and assembled up into a nice unit. So now we've already had this fit, so in theory it should fit perfectly again, but you never know. This is motorcycling. So let's see, this was right through there. That was no problem. Oh, I forgot. See, this is the kind of thing. One thing has to go first. This has to go first. All part of going through this prototype thing. There we go. Maybe that's a good trick. I don't know. Sometimes it goes one way and not the other way. I tightened up these wires. We have joints on them. But I want all of this to... Now the screamer has to get plugged in. That gets plugged into... And where is my plug for the screamer? There we go. Only goes one way. That's the screamer. By the way, there's a lot of other options for Valentine. There's red lights that go in your helmet and I don't know, other things. But the screamer is the thing. Jose talked me into it. Jose, it worked perfectly. This, I think I'm just going to grind a little notch. This is a soft rubber here. So maybe, see, I want to leave this all flexible. Of course, I have to be able to plug this in. This gets plugged in, and then that gets routed through there. That gets routed through there. That goes there. And that should do it. Now, before we declare success, I want to make sure I've got all the connections right. Everything's nice and tight. The bolts are tight. Usually if you hear that beep, you know you're good to go, but I always like to check it anyway. Let it go through its cycle, and we're ready to go put it on the motorcycle. And boy, that took a long time to make, but I think that's going to change. And I'll try to do some before and after photos with the old tank bag and this tank bag, and we'll see as we ride each one of the bikes if there's anything I have to adjust or change. But right now, it looks like it's our lucky day. Now, I always like when I can make something from parts I have in stock, or even aluminum I had in stock. And when I'm all done with it, it kind of has the look of a factory part or something that looks like it's professionally made. That looks pretty. So because we did all the dry fitting, you would think we're not going to run into any issues. The wire, of course, is no problem. It's the lock to lock that was the problem on the black bike. No problem at all. So it's the lock to lock. You see where that was one of my concerns, and I did of course dry fit it, but you never know. You wake up the next morning and it's not the same. Now what's going to be interesting, because it looks like we're going to be able to ride today. I'll have to check with Karen. If I get a little ride, I'll shoot a lot of pictures, because then I can do some before and afters of how this looks relative to the other two tank bags. Now, I was afraid this would be, see, I wanted to get a little rubber cap or something for that, just so there's no chance it scratches when you go to put it on and off. But again, We got to look at this from every angle. That worked out. That's about as good as it gets. And I was afraid that by leaving that silver, I was going to have a reflection issues. You see, the bars are not shiny. Remember when bikes used to have chrome bars? That's like a dull finish. And I like the fact that the bars and this and the wheels all kind of tie together. But what I think, well, here's the thing we're going to see. We're going to see it on video. I think you're going to be able to see the speedometer now and the clock and everything. That'll be pretty nice. Though we don't know until we actually go out on the open road. This was the bike that we had the issue with, the clearance issue. Wires no problem, of course. Let's see if this worked out. Perfect! Again, these are the issues. This was an interference, and now it couldn't be better. But I'll check all the bikes. I just want to be safe ahead of time. Okay, so this one. Yeah, it should be beautiful. That's nice. No, not even close to anything having a problem. Not even close. We are really looking out on this today. Maybe it's our lucky day. I'm going to talk about clearance issues here. That worked out. You got plenty of room. So all of the bikes, this worked out to be super successful. All of the bikes, no clearance issues. No problem down here with any interference on anything that I was afraid of, scratch the paint. But I really still would like to get some little rubber bumpers or something for that. That's just a bolt sticking out the bottom. That'll be the last little upgrade. And unfortunately for this, I don't know if there is an answer. I'm not sure. And maybe the answer really is that I have to really invent something really special. I don't know. And hey, we still got the kids' furniture here. But the sheetrock's going in today or tomorrow, I don't know. And on the RD and on the GS, the older bikes that have this type of a gas cap, we're going to have to be creative in the future. Now, as I'm pre-flighting a bike, I know where we're going. There's still going to be snow on the ground, and the salt. I don't know what, they must give that salt away or the politicians get a cutback on it. There is so much salt. Sometime when I get back, that it just takes me longer to clean the salt off, especially on the bottom of the bike where you hardly see it. But I see it, so it gets me annoyed. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get a ride. So it's, well, it's something I have to deal with constantly. I want to take some pictures of the way this worked out, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it could have been better. You know, we're all pre-flighted up, and we're had an extra cup of coffee, and we are ready to get on the open road. I can't wait to see how this is going to look from the driver's point of view, and of the most important thing, from the video that we share. We'll see you in about the next couple of hours. Now, because it just snowed the night before, and I expected there'd be some salt on the road, and I was not disappointed. There was salt everywhere. It was ridiculous. Now, talk about how much salt is on the road. Look at those tires.
When I get back home, cleaning that crap off the bike is really a problem. What a pain.
Take a really close look at the road on some of these little outtakes footages. There's salt and ice and wet. Now I have the traction control on the most invasive setting. You can feel it. Every time you hit one of these little slippery spots, you feel that little lunge and of course the little light on the dashboard goes on. Thank you, traction control. And needless to say, the first time the Valentine gave me a little heads up today, I was really happy. That Valentine really does save your bacon big time.
Well, as I'm riding the bike for the first time with this radar detector mount, boy oh boy, all through the ride, it just couldn't be nicer. It definitely is better than any of the bags, and I can't wait to look at the video.
Now, even on a day when the roads are wet and icy and salty and it's cold and you can cry the blues all you want, it's still better than not being able to get a ride, and we are not at springtime yet. This ride reminded me there's still some winter. And of course, the biggest feature of the MT-09 is the engine. The torque, the low-end torque, the flexibility of the engine, just the way Yamaha has tuned the engine is just beautiful.
And there's still some snow up north here, and not much in Rutherford, but the roads are salty. Plenty of salt on the roads.
And of course, the quick shifter on the bike, that was an add-on, $125 add-on, worth every penny. I wish I had one on all my bikes. That's one thing I didn't expect would be as much fun as it turned out to be. Now, some of the roads were so slippery, I decided about 2 or 3 times I was thinking I should put this thing in rain mode just to be safe. The rain mode on this bike really cuts back on the abruptness of the throttle. It's great.
Now these tires are the road Michelin 5s. The ones Stefan is using are 50/50 track tires. He sent me a picture of the label. They're the more aggressive ones. They should be better on the track than these would be, but these will probably be better on the street. So Stefan agreed with me in his email that the Michelin 2s were fine, but they wore out fast. The Michelin 3s wear out the edges even quicker. Have no idea why. And the Michelin 5s are just the best of all worlds. So it seems like whether you ride in Romania or whether you ride in the United States or actually in Australia, everybody to a man that's ever sent me email always likes the Michelin 5s. They are such a good time. I always like to look at these little custom things that I've done on a bike, look at them out in a bright sun on the open road in different lighting, and well worth the time. And the best news of the day was how happy I was with the way this played out. And I didn't even count the appearance of it. That's the last thing. It worked perfectly. It's not in my way, and I got better vision of the instruments.
You think there's any road salt left on the roads? And they are slippery today. This is not a normal ride day. We need a good rainstorm to clean some of that stuff off. I bet Stefan's got the same thing in Romania. Just, you don't see it, but it's there and it is slippery.
The other little thing that worked out well for me was lowering the forks, and that the bike turns in a little quicker, and it's just something that works for my body type. Now, I really can't test it today because there are no big fast sweepers up in this area where they're really fast. But I can get more of my body weight up over the forks now with the way this radar detector mount worked out. And we'll try that soon, but not today. And the ergonomics of this bike fit me perfectly. After 2.5, 3 hours, there's no way to tell that seat looks so thin. That seat is great for me. I don't know about other people, but even a great rider like this, eventually you got to head the bike back to Route 80 and make that boring ride home.
So now I have some real world testing on this, and I don't think it could be a lot better. The only thing better now is we have to get a test on all of the bikes, and that of course will be as soon as we possibly get some more riding time. This was a beautiful day. We snuck a ride in here. It's hard to believe it snowed yesterday. It was snowing yesterday. And one of the next projects we're going to work on here before the winter's out is that screening and the scooping.
So this worked out to be quite a nice upgrade, and it couldn't be any better. I have a much nicer view from the driving position. I can't wait to look at the video and the pictures from, well, oh, we got to check it on all the bikes, of course, but this one is for sure in the bank. The only thing wrong with the whole day will be that I now have to clean a lot of salt off the bike. And it's all in places it's hard to see. You got to lay on the ground. But I do like having a clean bike. Anyway, and I do like having, this worked out great. And by the way, that thing was $12.95. I don't remember what the GIVI bag was because you need the GIVI bag things, but boy, what a nice upgrade. And sometimes you make an upgrade that you think is going to be really some big something to do, and it turns out to be a nothing. And sometimes you make a small change. Now, it took me 3 days to make this little the Valentine mount, and I know some people are going to think, oh boy, it took too long. Well, you know what? To me, it's an investment, just like the wheels. Having the wheels now, having the tank mount, having the exhaust polished, among other things, and now that it's all clean, I got to get out there, get out my Meguiar's wax and clean everything up. But anyway, it was well worth it. Any day you can get out. Any day you don't have to spend the day sitting inside on. This day turned out great. And in the middle of the winter to grab a ride like this, it's stealing a ride. So we have some of the big details done. The wheels are done now. The upgraded Valentine mount is in the bank. I call it in the bank anyway. We have a few little other detail changes, probably another week of working on it, and hopefully we'll get some riding weather. We can try the mount on all the other bikes one by one as time is available. But the big thing right now is we're still running a bed and breakfast here for about another month. But the sheetrock started going in today, and once that changes, I'll have a lot more shop time and actually a lot more riding time. So in the meantime, we're just going to take advantage of every day, salt or no salt. I still want to ride every day I possibly can. We post up every day. Thanks for watching.